Hello everybody, Thomas here, welcome back to another video. Today, considering we're now in July, I thought it would be a good time to give you a quick garden update about what's going on here, what we've got planted and what the plans are. Due to the wetter weather, we've probably not had quite as good growth as we want, but hopefully some things still look fairly decent. So without further ado, let's get into it. I think a good place to start would be the greenhouse or the cold frame. At the minute, we've got some tomato plants, peppers and cucumbers all growing in here. The tomatoes were grown from seed and planted straight into here, and so far the growth has been really strong. Normally we grow them outside, but last year we added this bed of soil to the bottom to increase our growing space and also allow us to hopefully grow some plants which need warmer climates, and so far the tomatoes are doing really well along with the cucumbers and the peppers, and you can see the tomatoes are just starting to produce their first fruits, which is always a good sign. Along with the cucumbers as well, having just started to flower. Last year we really struggled with those, probably due to them being in bags, potentially getting too wet or dry, but this year along with the peppers they're doing really nicely. Let's have a look at one of my favourite crops to grow, courgettes. With the wetter weather we had at the start of the season, they did struggle to get going, but now after having some weeks of sun, they are starting to put on some more growth, which is always nice, and hopefully in the coming weeks they'll produce us some nice courgettes. Now onto the rest of the bed. This bed consists of really a mix of beetroots and carrots. The beetroots were planted in from their plug trays several months ago now, and in the last few weeks we have started to have a couple of beetroots from them, and I have to say they are one of my favourite things to have for lunch, so I'm very glad that they're ready now. The carrots, however, were directly sown probably a month or two ago now, and they're already nice and bushy, which is a good sign. So they're putting on nice new growth, although I can't see any carrots quite yet, but the foliage is definitely there, so it has to be a good sign in terms of their growth, given that they should be nice, healthy plants. Now onto what could probably be described as one of the failures this year, and that is the Stutgart Onions. A lot of them have seemed to have bolted, which is a shame, so they'll have to be harvested prematurely, and also quite a few have rotted. Although the growth so far on some of them was alright, but then they decided to bolt, probably due to the wetter weather, but it's never happened before, so hopefully it's just a one-off. Looking at the rest of the bed, we've got a line of salads which have really liked the weather, having grown quite vigorously, but it's good because they are something which are used very frequently, so they are not a problem. And then alongside these we've got some multi-sown spring onions which appear to be doing well so far, some strong stems and haven't been snapped by the wind or the rain. And then at the back, just behind them, we've got some dwarf French beans, which at the start of the season when I first tried to grow them, they didn't do much, so this line seemed to be the only surviving members of the dwarf French bean community in the garden. And then just next to these we've got some cosmos and tomatoes. The cosmos provides some nice food for the pollinators, and the tomatoes are spare ones which didn't have much room in the greenhouse. Some more cosmos have also been planted underneath the Rena Beans, which are growing very well now, although it is a bit patchy in a couple of areas, but you can see that they're starting to flower, so hopefully in a week or so we'll have some nice Rena Beans to pick. Due to the patchiness in some places, I have tried to train the Rena Beans up their own cane and then back down another, and then joining them in the middle, and it seems to have worked. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll make it a bit more bushy. Now, this bed was meant to have different types of salads in it, but as you can see, my arch nemesis, which if you didn't know are cats, have decided to dig the majority of them up. I tried to use the same deterrence methods which you do for slugs and snails by putting canes down, but apparently cats have steel plates in their paws, so it doesn't work, unfortunately. But as you can see, with the leeks and the garlics and also a couple of radishes which were planted, I've tried to create this sort of trellis with spare bamboo canes, and it seems to have worked so far. The garlics themselves, a couple have unfortunately bolted, but the leeks, these were sown much later on and are growing nicely so far, so hopefully no more do bolt. You can see them there, but Around the garlics, I can't see any cloves quite yet, so hopefully very soon we'll have some. I thought I'd just show you this sorrel quickly, which I put in the ground at the end of last year, and it's done really well. It's produced absolutely tons of leaves, which I've mainly used for drying, but now it's starting to go to seed. This year we decided to do a whole bed's worth of potatoes. These are salad potatoes, which were put in fairly early on in the season, and now you can see they're starting to fall forward, so it shouldn't be long before they're ready. In order to try and maximise yields again this year, we've planted quite a few crops in bags like these potatoes here, and also around by plants such as the tomatoes, we've planted some marigolds because obviously they're good companion plants with one another. Also, one crop which I really like to do in bags is courgettes, because you can control the water much better and also give them a bit more space. A few weeks ago over on my Instagram, I'll leave a link on screen, I planted a couple of pots of herbs, and as you can see they're doing quite well, although a couple have been nibbled by slugs and snails. And then finally at the back, I planted a sea of different types of flowers, mainly calendulas and marigolds, just to add a bit more colour aesthetically, and also to provide some food for the pollinators, which is also a key part of the ecosystem in the garden. And there we go, a full July garden tour. Thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. It would be much appreciated. And of course, if you want to stay up to date with more of my garden content, you can always find me over on Instagram. Thank you very much for watching, and see you soon.